What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Booming Basketball. I'm Nate here with Danny.
Yo, what's good, guys?
As per usual, we're here to talk about basketball, and with the dog days of the offseason looming, it's kind of set in stone now with what most teams have done. There's going to be a few trades here and there, maybe a James Harden, Damian Lillard trade, which everyone's been patiently waiting on. But other than that, there's not too many moves that are going to be made here on out until the preseason. And I think it's fair to say that you can grade teams at this point. Some things will change, but that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. And we're going to be doing a there's going to be two parts rather to this video. This is going to be the Western Conference, and then we'll be doing the Eastern Conference in a following.
All right, for the first team that we're going to be getting into, it's going to be the reigning NBA champions, the Denver Nuggets. Nate, they lost Bruce Brown, Jeff Green, and Thomas Bryant. I mean, granted, Thomas Bryant's not a big loss compared to the other two, but the other two guys held very pivotal roles, and the only guy who they brought in was Justin Holiday. So I'm gonna give them a D+ here. I don't know if you agree with that.
No, I mean, I think
I'm gonna give them a solid D+.
Yeah, I think D+ is what we came to agree on. That's definitely, I think, fair. Because usually, when you're talking about a contending team, it's not like you need them to go out and make a bunch of moves, but it's more so about keeping that core together. And inevitably, players are going to play well on their way to a championship and earn themselves money. And sometimes they lose players, but I think Jeff Green arguably hurts them more than Bruce Brown, not as a player standpoint. Like, obviously, Bruce Brown is the more talented player right now and offers more on the court. But Jeff Green was really the veteran presence of that entire Nuggets locker room, and he was kind of that voice to them and that veteran presence that they not so much lack, but he was definitely the leader of that locker room when it came to someone that has been around the league, experienced, knows what it takes to get to a championship. He played on the Cavs when they made the finals with LeBron, and that just happens sometimes. You lose players like that, and Justin Holiday really doesn't move me very much at all. It's tough to losing those two players, but I don't think the Nuggets are going to be bad because of it, but I can't give them a good grade either.
Yeah, no, I mean, we agree on the D+ because, like you said, I mean, like an average offseason, like if the Nuggets did absolutely nothing during the offseason, I would probably give them a C or a C+ based on the fact that they were reigning NBA champions. But the money that the Pacers spent on Bruce Brown, the Nuggets weren't going to.
No, yeah, and I think it's smart they wouldn't.
Yeah, no, I think that it's smart that they wouldn't too, but still losing him and not getting really anybody to replace him other than Justin Holiday, I guess.
I think right now
is like it's a downgrade.
Yeah.
So I think it's a below average off season, which is where I got the D+ from.
I think one of their big hopes, honestly, for going into the next season is that obviously we saw how good Christian Braun was in the finals and just the playoffs in general. I think they wanted to take a bigger role, even offensively. He's shown some capabilities of that. He emerged and had the 15 points in one of the games against the Heat and was looking really good offensively. He's not a great shooter, which is his biggest weakness, but I think he can still develop more in the area. He's still a young player, and his defense showed more than capable, and I don't think that he's that far off Brown defense or the other Brown, Bruce Brown. It's kind of confusing, especially because his name looks like it's spelled like Braun, and so, but
Damn it, bro. Bro, Nate, I cannot tell you how long I was holding that sneezing.
Back to what I was saying before Danny just saw his life flash before his eyes. I think that Christian Braun is on a similar level to Bruce Brown defensively, that he can fill that void, and the Nuggets are so good at player development and finding pieces to add to their team the past couple of years and shifting their lineups and their rotations, and Michael Malone's done a fantastic job with that as well. So I really don't think that the Nuggets are going to have a massive drop-off or anything, but it might take them a little bit of time to find someone to fill that void. But all in all, it's not like they lost a superstar player, and Jeff Green, as solid as a player as he still is at this age, I think they can find another veteran presence to bring in. They already do have DeAndre Jordan, even though he doesn't really play. It's not the end of the world for Denver, but you can't say that they necessarily had a good offseason. The Nuggets don't really have any big-name rookies coming in, but they did get 3 rookies from the 29 to 37 range. That's Julian Strawther from Gonzaga, Jalen Pickett from Penn State, and then Hunter Tyson. And Tyson and Strother are both longer wings. They fit the mold of kind of hopefully coming in to be shooters, scorers, and defenders potentially. They're kind of raw, but I'm not expecting them to come in and just be great. Kind of like Christian Braun, Brown rather. It's maybe they can fill in a role later down the season, or the Nuggets will probably figure out something to do with them as they've done with their rookies many, many times in seasons past. They like to get their rookies involved early, and their player development starts with getting their young guys opportunities at young ages, except for Bull. And after seeing him in Orlando, that's for obvious reasons, but that's another discussion. So I think that the Nuggets will probably have a rotation set at first, but if the rookies start playing well enough in spot minutes, potentially, maybe one of these guys can also work their way into the rotation like Brown was able to do so in his rookie year. And it's just something to look out for, because I know that the Nuggets are very adept to giving their young guys opportunities early, no matter how late they're picked, hence Jokic getting such opportunity when he came over from Serbia. So it's just Denver's very keen on giving their young guys opportunities, so I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe all three of those guys get opportunities at some point during the year now.
Next team that we're going to jump into is going to be the Oklahoma City Thunder. We're going to give them a B here. They did sign Vasilije Micic, who was an overseas player. He's a two-time champion, two-time MVP overseas, and his stats honestly look great. I haven't watched much film on him, but his stats look great, so that's a good thing. And then they brought in Oladipo and Bertans, which Bertans is obviously on a terrible contract, but the Thunder got draft picks in exchange for taking on those contracts, and they're probably going to end up just buying out Bertans. And then the Thunder had a pretty solid draft. I like Case and Wallace. I like Keontae. They both look really good in Summer League. I don't know. How do you feel about it, Nate?
I mean, I don't really think Keontae is anything, so I'm not really going to count that towards it, but I think it's fair. They did a little bit to add to their draft capital. They didn't do anything crazy. I do like Case and Wallace, and I think that just having Chet coming back is going to be very, very good for them. So I didn't think there's necessarily a lot for them to do, and I do always like to see the Euro guys come over. We've seen success with it in the past, and, European players are taking over the game, so hopefully he's able to translate. He's a big 6'5" guard. He can make well. He shot very well from three in the Turkish league. 46% from deep and 53% from the field is no joke. He's playing against professional players, so hopefully he can come in, and OKC really needs a bench piece and someone to lead their bench. Maybe he can do that. And yeah, I think this OKC team is going to have a fun squad, and they did a little bit to add to that this offseason. The next team we have up is the Portland Trail Blazers, and as of right now, we're just going to give them a C+, but it's very much to be continued and something that's not finalized as of right now, because it's weird looking at the moves because you don't know where Dame is going to end up, and it's probably not going to be with Portland, and now all of a sudden Jeremy Grant's contract of 5 years, $190 million looks a lot worse.
Yeah, it does. It does look really bad. Like you said, it really depends on what they get back for Dame. And yeah, I mean, if they do get a good return for Dame, it could definitely be on the higher side. It could honestly go up to like a B+, because drafting Scoot was just a huge W for them, because it gives them the opportunity to not be as afraid to move on from Dame and not just have like an empty hole there. I mean, I know that you have Simons. But you still have that. Yeah, you still have that 2-guard lineup that.
Well, I think it's that they have their backcourt pretty much set for the future, or not set for the future, like they're guaranteed to work out, but they have at least a lot of potential at those positions that they can be comfortable trying to develop those talents and let Dame go. And like you said, if they do get a good return for that, Jeremy Grant's contract isn't ideal, but it's not the end of the world either.
Yeah, in my opinion, if they didn't sign Tank Commander Jeremy Grant to that massive long-term deal, then it would be higher than a C+ as of now. But like I said, we have to see what they get for Dame.
The Jazz are a team who I'm a very big fan of what they've done this offseason. They're the next team up, and we decided to go and give them an A. And there's a couple reasons for that. John Collins being one of those reasons, even though I don't think either of us are the biggest John Collins fans. I don't like... But what they got back for what they gave up rather to get John Collins was really nothing of note. A few second-round picks and, cash, whatever, Rudy Gay. It's not exactly the biggest return for Atlanta. But taking a flyer on a guy who is shown to be very talented and at least have skill set to be a potential all-star level player, The fit with Laurie's a bit questionable, but at least it's making moves without giving up any pieces, really, and he's still pretty young.
Yeah, I mean, and people do seem to forget that John Collins at one point in his career was a 20-point per game scorer.
Yep.
And just, like, he lost some of the volume that he was getting in those kinds of years. So hopefully he can step it back up again with the Jazz. And then I also think that the Jazz had a really good draft this year, bro.
Yep.
I like Bryce Sensabaugh. I really like Keontae George. Shout out Keontae George.
Yeah, Keontae George, if you guys don't know by now, he posted on his, or not he posted, but a Jazz reporter rather posted at Summer League. His background on his phone was our draft profile that we made of him and his weaknesses for motivation. That got quite a few amount of views on social media. But yeah, we do really like Keontae George's game. And then also, I'm a big fan of Taylor Hendricks. He's a very versatile forward. You can maybe play him as a small ball center, but having him develop behind two talented forwards to learn from, Markkanen and Collins, I think he'll be very good off the bench. I don't expect him to start in his first year, but this team has a lot of length, and in today's NBA, you like length, and I really like what the Jazz did this offseason, so I think an A is fair.
All right, next team that we're going to look at is the Golden State Warriors. We decided to give them a C+, because they moved on from Jordan Poole. I think it was a slightly above average offseason. They moved on from Jordan Poole, which seems to be more of something in terms of chemistry. Obviously, we know he didn't really have any chemistry in terms of, Draymond didn't
Mr.
like
Green.
him at all. Yeah, Draymond didn't like him at all. And then losing DiVincenzo sucks because he
was great
he was
for
a
them.
solid bench piece. Yeah, he was a really good backup point guard. And I mean, they brought in Chris Paul, Corey Joseph, and then they drafted Podziemski. I like Podziemski. He fits their scheme. The Warriors seem to go after a shooter almost every single draft. And they re-signed Draymond, which the number, I don't really like the number, but I mean, the Warriors probably felt obligated to do it.
They need Draymond.
Yeah, because Draymond is, like, I know Steph Curry is one of the greatest players of all time, but we look at Draymond as one of the centerpieces of that organization and that team just being successful. And they picked up Sarge for depth.
I mean,
whatever, but it's cool.
Yeah, and with Draymond, he's more valuable to the Warriors than any other team in the league, and it's not even close. So,
definitely.
Giving him that money, I feel like they're obligated to. They didn't really get much better or worse. The Chris Paul fit's interesting. I don't think it's necessarily my favorite thing because I'd rather see Chris Paul off the bench, and it seems like he wants to start. But again, Steph Curry is one of the greatest off-ball players, if not the greatest off-ball player ever. So I'm sure they'll figure it out, but the defense as a whole on this team and just age is a concern for me. So I think, C+ is good. The next team up is staying in California, the LA Clippers, the other LA team, and we're going to go with a B- for them. Another team that had like a slightly above average offseason. Re-signing Plumlee, I think, was big, but losing Eric Gordon hurts a bit. He was pretty good for them for his half a season that he was there. And, Kobe Brown's a cool draft pick. I'm a fan of him. KJ Martin also makes them younger. So they added some nice young players, or two nice young players, which is something that LA has needed to do for a bit now. They're an older team. And so it's not a bad offseason. But again, if they get Harden, that's subject to change. But as of right now, I think B-.
I really like them trading for KJ Martin because, like you said, it does make them younger. And he's also a really solid player. And I think that he will shine there once things open up, and I think that he will be a good piece off the bench, and that'll help him a lot. But like you said, barring a Harden trade, we'll see what they have to give up for Harden. If they don't have to give up too much, so be it. The grade could be subject to go up, but if they give up a little bit too much, then the grade could definitely drop below average.
Yeah, if they give up the King's ransom, I'm not going to be a big fan of that. But as of right now, where we stand, B-.
All right, next team that we're going to be looking at is the Los Angeles Lakers. We're going to give them a B+. They were one of the more active teams this offseason. They had a lot that they did, and a lot of players that they lost, but then a lot of replacements that they brought in. They were able to bring in Gabe Vincent, which I think is a pretty solid signing. He looked really solid last year. Jackson Hayes, which is kind of just like a
He's Jackson. He's going to be like Mo Bamba. He'll just sit and rot on the bench and come in when they really can't rebound at all, and then they'll think that Hayes will help rebound, but he won't.
Cam Reddish, I mean, you sign him. He's given the mentorship now of LeBron James.
Yeah.
So hopefully this could be where he blossoms. I don't necessarily know if this is where he's going to blossom. I don't know if he is going to blossom.
I'm going to give it 2 months until Lakers fans are asking him to be on the Guangdong Tigers.
I can agree with that. And then they drafted Jalen Hood-Schifino, who, I mean, he could be solid depending on how his shot-making ability is in the league.
I'm not a huge fan of him pre-draft.
With NBA defense on him, I don't know if he's going to be able to shoot the clip that he did in college, but he just, in the summer league, he just seemed very undisciplined when it came to his shot selection.
I don't care about summer league, so.
Yeah, I don't really care about summer league either, but it went to show that he was playing against the best competition that he could at that moment, and he was shooting like awful from the field.
Yeah, but I like, getting Gabe Vincent's nice. He had a good playoffs. He's definitely going to fight for that starting point guard spot, it sounds like. D'Lo, getting him back, not a terrific deal, but not awful either if he can play to his potential and not like he did in the playoffs, because that was god-awful to watch. But, they did some nice things. Getting Rui and Reeves back on friendly deals, too, is nice. So I'm really not mad at what the Lakers did. The only thing that concerns me is the fact that every single year the Lakers roster is almost completely different, and they have no consistency or time to build chemistry over multiple seasons. So we'll see where the Lakers end up, and the Lakers are kind of always a wild card. You'll never really know what you're going to get with them. They looked terrible for a lot of the year and then ended up making the Western Conference Finals, so...
Yeah, I mean the Reeves extension really like boosted the grade up for me, because it was a very team friendly signing, and it's long term.
Yeah, I think most of us thought he was going to get more than that. So
yeah, I thought he was going to get upwards of like 15 to 20, bro.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of us did. So I think the fact that they did get that, I'm not going to give them an A or an A minus, but I think a B plus is pretty solid. It's nothing to laugh about. Phoenix is the next team we're talking about, and they have a lot to talk about, but we're going to try to keep it short and sweet. Giving them a B+, because really, this Bradley Beal deal is a huge gamble. They essentially have no control over their future picks now for multiple years, and it's just, that's a scary thing to do when you're a team like that, and your best players are in the later stages of their prime, other than Devin Booker, but I almost just burped there, but I didn't, so... That's good. And, they got some solid role players. I like Yuta Watanabe, getting Eric Gordon on a friendly deal. Bol sucks. We've been over this. I don't care about Bol. Metu's been a decent player at some times for Sacramento. So they have a bunch of pieces here that they can filter kind of in and out and mess with rotations off the bench. They're going to score the ball. Yeah, we know that.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I think in the earlier parts of the year, it might be a little bit of a problem in terms of like the bench, because we see, I mean, everyone had this discussion after, they got Bradley Beal, is that all of their money's invested in their starting lineup. Yep. So they basically have an entirely new bench this year. And they just traded away Campaign. They lost CP3, Shamit, Jacques Lundell, who I actually liked.
Jacques was good.
Yeah.
Not Landry Shamit! No! He's so good!
Landry Shamit used to be tough. No, not so much. But yeah, they don't have any control over their future draft capital, like you said. I mean, we're saying now a B+.
It could be an A+. If they win a ring, it's an A+, but we don't know.
If they win a ring, it's an A+. If they don't win a ring and one of the players ends up unhappy, or one of the players ends up requesting a trade or something like that, this grade could get lowered completely down to like a C+ or a C.
Yeah, most of these teams have had pretty, at least not super aggressive off seasons, so they've had one of the more aggressive off seasons, and their potential is as high as it gets, but it's also as low as it gets, because with big expectations comes a lot of disappointment if you don't meet those expectations. So right now, sticking at a B+. The Kings are another team that I think did very solid this offseason. They're also going to get a B+, but not too much to talk about. Sasha Vezenkov from the EuroLeagues is a terrific player. I made a post about him on the Instagram. I think he's going to be very, very good. Could be a similar player to Joe Ingles in his prime, Bojan Bogdanovic, which is something the Kings could use to have a shooter next to De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis, because Sabonis loves to kick out to shooters and cutters, and Vezenkov does that very well. And then getting Duarte to add either off the bench or I guess maybe plug and play in the starting lineup for only 2 second-round picks was also a very nice pickup for them.
Yeah, I mean, the only real notable player that they lost was Chimezie Metu, but like it gets outweighed completely by signing, Sasha Vezenkov, and they got Chris Duarte in a trade. So, getting Chris Duarte makes the team even younger, and I actually like Duarte. He had a good rookie season when he was on the Pacers. I think he, shows flashes.
I mean, he's a little older, but
but I mean, the Kings were a team that, made the right moves, didn't really have to change much, didn't lose much, and gained some.
Yep.
So that's why it's a B+. They didn't have a bad offseason, they didn't have a crazy good offseason, but they did what they had to do. Next team that we're going to be looking at is the Dallas Mavericks. We're going to give them a C+, due to the fact that they didn't really do what they needed to do this offseason to get better, and in my mind, they didn't really do what they needed to do to get in contention.
They didn't address the problems that they needed to address.
Yeah, exactly. They got rid of Bertans, horrible deal, which it's cool. I mean, they had to give up a pick for it, but it's cool.
Lively is a good draft pick because I think they needed a big man, and they didn't really have a big man before that. Hopefully, Lively can develop into something good. He's an incredible defender, instincts-wise for a rookie, super long, kind of what they need in that regards. But they also didn't really get any shooters around Luka and Kyrie, other than Seth Curry. Re-signing him was a good move. Grant Williams could be very good, but it's just there's still some holes in this team. They don't really have a solid center rotation because Lively I think could be good, but you don't want to rely on Lively as your only legit starting center. Dwight Powell absolutely blows. He's a terrible rebounder, does not score very well around in any area. I know Mavericks fans
kind of just a cone.
Mavericks fans have been asking Dwight Powell to stop getting minutes for quite a minute now, and that doesn't seem like it's going to happen. But signing Kyrie to that big deal, I guess, is nice after they gave up a bunch to get him. But at the same time, I'm never going to be a big fan of committing that much money and time to Kyrie Irving because he's just such a red flag.
Yeah, I mean, they like we said, they didn't address like the issues that they had, but they did bring in Lively. They brought in Grant Williams, which it's a cool signing.
No, I think Williams could be very good for them, but it's not earth shattering.
Yeah, like it's a cool signing. They brought in Rashawn Holmes, which not really anything. Seth Curry was a good signing, but I'm kind of basing their offseason grade off the Kyrie signing. I originally had their grade higher, but I'm kind of basing it off the Kyrie signing, which I see as like a C+, because we've discussed, Kyrie's not the most reliable player when it comes to like longevity on one team.
Chemistry.
But like obviously Kyrie is Kyrie Irving, though. He is a very talented basketball player, so that's going to take a big toll on the grade. But at the same time, if Kyrie was more trustworthy when it came to building chemistry and staying focused on one team, then this grade would probably be higher.
The next team up on the list is the Houston Rockets, who, again, had another interesting offseason, giving them a solid B- because not huge fans of the contracts they gave out, I don't think, but they did have a very nice draft, getting Cam Whitmore and Amen Thompson. I think Whitmore is going to end up being the steal of the draft. Losing KJ Martin hurts a little bit, but they have so much young talent that it doesn't really, I think, matter. They got rid of Usman Garuba, too, and a few other players, Josh Christopher, but it wasn't anything major, and I think their young core is very good. The main problem here lies with the longevity of their contracts that they gave out.
Yeah, I mean, we give them a B- now only because, like I've been saying the entire video, the benchmark is a C. If you didn't do anything, you're getting a C. They got better. They got better by signing Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks, and they brought in Amen Thompson and Cam Whitmore. They had they had the best draft out of any team in the NBA. And the only thing that we do have to look at is the long-term part, where they might have trouble bringing back some of these young guys that they have right now when their contracts are up.
Yeah, because even though Brooks doesn't make a ton, he does have a 4-year deal. VanVleet has a 3-year. When they're going to re-sign Sengun in a year or two, and Jalen Green in 2 to 3 years, and then Jabari Smith, and eventually all these guys, it's just they shouldn't be too much of a problem for the guys that were just drafted like this year or a year ago. But when they're trying to re-sign their other guys from a little bit before then, it might be a little bit of a problem. But overall, they're not looking to make a splash in free agency anytime soon, so I don't see a huge issue with it, and I could definitely see the contracts not ending up being a problem. So right now, B- is what we're going to give them, but we do like generally what they did this offseason.
So now the team that Dylan Brooks left, we're gonna move on to the Memphis Grizzlies. Also gonna give them a B- because they got rid of Dylan Brooks, which was it was an image thing and a chemistry thing. I know that we do think that a lot of the team did like Dylan Brooks as a person, but I have heard Grizzlies players that did speak out about Dylan Brooks, opening his mouth in the postseason. And yeah, so due to lack of chemistry, honestly, that's not a terrible move. And then losing Tyus Jones kind of hurt, obviously, because he is a very good secondary ball handler. But they did bring in a guy to try to fill both of those roles at once as secondary ball handler and as their lockdown defender in Marcus Smart, which I really, really like.
And I think Smart is better than both of those two players, probably.
Yeah.
But
combined.
No, I don't know about combined, but it could be. But I think Derrick Rose still might have a little bit left. I'm not too sure, because obviously I have watched a lot of Knicks games, and even when Rose did play last season, it wasn't pretty. He wasn't great. But maybe he can get into a rhythm if he's in a consistent role. I do like him really as a mentor, though, regardless, to a young Grizzlies team, especially to Ja, because Rose has one of the steadiest heads on his shoulders out of anyone, and Ja likes to flash toy guns on social media. So hopefully maybe those two things can, balance each other out, and, Rose might take on a little bit of a bigger role, too, with Ja being out for a bit. Not a huge fan of the moves they've made, because they are a little smaller with Smart, but all in all, I don't think they got, they didn't get worse, and they did potentially get better. So I kind of like what they did, especially with Derrick Rose, because I think they needed a veteran desperately to go along with Steven Adams, because Adams was really their only veteran. Pelicans, next team. Very exciting. Not exciting at all. They signed Herb Jones to a 4-year, $54 million deal, which actually I think is a steal for Herb. Love Herb. Great player. I think he's going to be a perennial all-defensive player. And, yeah, I love Herb Jones, especially on that deal. But, the Zion drama with Mariah Mills and stuff, it wasn't ideal publicity, but they didn't make any moves that were really bad. Jordan Hawkins is nice to add a shooter to their team. So, yeah, I think a C is whatever. They kind of just meh. Not to leave it on too much of a bland note, but the Spurs are the last team we have up in the Western Conference. We're going to give them an A- because everything that they were doing the past season was to try and get Wembanyama. They completed their goals. They got the most talented or most hyped up generational prospect we've seen probably since LeBron. So, they're a very young team. They got the main thing that they were looking to get. Signed Reggie Bullock and Shady Osman, so I guess two alright veterans. It's not that much, but they did what they wanted to do, and getting a generational prospect I think is worthy of an A-. Anyways, that's going to do it pretty much for this video. We're going to be doing a part 2, the Eastern Conference, grading all the teams and their off seasons, so make sure to stay tuned for that. Check out all of our social media links in the description and support us there. If you guys did like this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Anyways, this has been Nate and Danny as always, and we'll see you guys in the next video.
Peace.
Peace out.
Balls, please. Sir, you have a little bit of poop inside your testicles.